Hello, let's start with breaking news. So, and the breaking news are NetBeans is out. So I got right now in chat a message, the NetBeans 8.1 is out. It's a very new, so I don't even have it. I just, if I will show you some code, I will use NetBeans the daily builds. And this is, these are actually hot news. Okay, let's start with the regular show. And this is the show right after JavaOne. And I attended the JavaOne, and I got lots of questions about, Oracle firing evangelist, and everyone was very excited about JavaOne. What I have to say is JavaOne was great, if not the best one after Oracle bought Sun. So it started for me at Sunday. It was like a kind of secret breakfast with Oracle executives. There were about 30 people invited. We had to sign NDA. And so what I can tell is it seems like everything looks still okay. And it was what I actually, it looks like the all, I would say, Oracle drama before JavaOne is just, a person issue or manager decision. Is not like Oracle is no more investing in Java. It is like what I actually already said in the previous airhacks is like Oracle is a big company and there are some decisions, and they made some decisions which are not probably the right one, but Oracle is still investing in Java, and they're even hiring engineers. So from the Java perspective, everything still looks okay. And the vibe was great. I learned a lot. I attended from 8 in the morning to late in the night sessions, delivered some of my sessions, and what I did, I just prepared a very short video, so about a few minutes. So I would like to share the video with you. So I recorded this with my, it's almost a tradition already. So this is the day before JavaOne. It is, so I walked into the direction of, or to the Hilton Hotel. So I had to pick up my stuff, and this is the Oracle Open World in the Moscone Center. And on Sunday there was JavaOne for Kids, which is the first time. This is where our shown hang area was built, and this is the registration. So you had to pick up your materials and your bag, and this started with NetBeans Day. This is James Gosling on the left, and it was extremely well attended. So at this session there were 300 attendees, and later in the Java E sessions were around 800 attendees. So it was the largest available room, and it was completely full. So this is Heltjan Vilenga. This is the PM from NetBeans. And this was before our talk. As you can see, it was completely full. We only had, the room had to be resized twice. And what we did in our talk, we showed how to use NetBeans I showed a little bit Maven in Java E, and there was several speakers showed how to use NetBeans. So this is the official keynote. There was actually nothing really new in the keynote. What was funny, I didn't record this, was the last 10 minutes. It was Scott McNeely was actually talking, virtually talking via video, and it was a really funny list why it is really bad to be a Java developer. So this was really funny. And the whole keynote was okay. What I also did, I attended the Open World keynote and prepared some slides during the keynote. And I have to say the JavaOne keynote was far more exciting than the Open World one. So this is the big iron, still alive, Sun Oracle. This is the Exalogic, as you can see, database in memory. What this is the expo space with some robots, could be also programmed in Java. I think the big one is called Pepper. And this was the exhibition hall with lots of booths. There were Payara, Tommy Tribe, GitHub, and this is actually the I think the robot from Liquid Robotics from James Gosling. As you can see, Tommy Tribe. So Tommy Tribe is the lightweight JavaE server. This is the Payara booth. Was lots of interest. Actually, I wanted to say hello to Payara folks, and they were always busy. So there's actually only once managed to say them hello. This was interesting. It was like coffee machine on ESB. So it was controlled by a IoT device, and you had to wait a little bit, but the coffee was actually great. So Duke, of course, everywhere, and this was the already constructed area. The hangout space, but there was actually no time to hang out. This was the beginning of my session, the microservices. The funny story is with my sessions, I delivered the first session on Sunday, and it was so busy, or I get so many questions. So, and the next question, the first time in the history, I actually forbidden the attendees to ask any questions. And these are the famous null pointers actually get banned. This is from various JavaOne attendees. Was really great sound, I have to say, very professional. And this was the Java Community Process JCP party on top of the Hilton. It was extremely nice view. I came late because I was actually after the airhacks TV BOF, and I got so many questions that I came late to the party. But what I will do, I recorded this session. I hope the recordings went well. If so, I will also push the session to YouTube. This was the morning coffee, Illy. There was no more Starbucks in Hilton, so I just, if you were lucky, you could grab a cup of coffee. So these are the smaller robots. They are already, they are really nice and cute. So you can program them in Java. This was on the booth, and this is a strange device. I don't even know what the purpose was. It looks like a cannon, and this is built with JavaFX, and what I did, as you can see, I tested whether it works. That you could actually vote for the sessions. Okay, some retro gaming stuff in the Hangout space. I wanted actually to play once, but there was no time. Null pointers again, now outside. As you can see, slightly different setup. Really nice sound, and you will see later there was also the community keynote. They also played during their keynote. So the problem with JavaOne is there is no time to sleep. So everything is optional. This is, from 8 in the morning until 10, 11 at night. There was lots of stuff. So because Java is 20 years old, there was like exposition with panels and with Java history. As you can see, this is Java 20. This is in the Park 55 hotel. You could get nice T-shirts. I didn't manage to get one because there was no time, and the queue was huge. They didn't scale. As you can see, there were two singletons with there was no fully synchronized, probably static even. So I think they were very afraid to be inconsistent. So as you can see, no performance actually. But T-shirts were great, and I don't have one, which is a pity. But we shouldn't attend JavaOne for T-shirts. So this is like hoverboards. There are different devices outside of JavaOne. Lots of buses. You could actually pick the bus to go to the keynote or to the JavaOne, or even to the appreciation event with Elton John. I had actually no time for the appreciation event, or rather, I preferred to hack some stuff and sleep. Actually, I released the breaker during JavaOne. So in my spare time, I hacked a little bit of code because of the inspiration. So this is the community keynote. It was actually really nice with some stuff prepared from the community, also with James Gosling. You should see it in second. And this is James. And Stephen Chin, this is like community manager at Oracle. Also author of Night Hacks. And as you can also see here is Riza Rahman throwing the t-shirt in the black shirt, and some people from NASA, and Ed Burns, I think, is in the back, is the JSF spec lead. So this was actually lots of fun, and this was the last day. And these are the presenters and teachers of Java Community Day, or sorry, JavaOne for Kids. And of course, the Duke. This was like a time travel show which was actually funny. So with folks from, I think there was the people from JFocus and Tommy Tribe and yeah. So, and this was my prepared stuff, and now back to the content. So again, JavaOne was great. Hopefully the sessions for next year get accepted. So I would like to attend again. And now the very first question. And the question is from Nebras from the guests, and he asked me, what are your recommendations to ensure the high performance and high availability in Java applications? So no kidding. So what I would suggest is the following. Write simple code and stress test often your application and measure the performance very often, and record the results and compare them very often. And high availability is a little bit harder. So high availability would mean what you would like to have is multiple servers, and to kill one server and see whether it still works. So what Netflix did, they implemented Chaos Monkey and even Chaos Conk. So the Chaos Monkey was like a process which kills random processes, and Chaos Conk even kills whole data centers. So and what I said in the 19th airhacks QA is that clustering is a bad idea. What I actually meant is the following: clustering of HTTP sessions and stateful session beans is a bad idea, but this is usually what the application servers are doing. So usually they cluster this session state and stateful session bean state, which I think is not an issue, because high availability does not mean that the HTTP session cannot be lost. What it usually means is that the server is still alive, and you can reconnect to a different node. So I would classify HTTP session as not being critical, also not stateful session beans. So you could achieve the same without clustering. And what we actually use, we use clustering, but only to deploy the apps. We don't use the clustering of HTTP session and stateful session bean features. So what you would also need probably is like cache invalidation in cluster. Why this? Yeah, because if you have multiple caches, JPA caches, and you write to one cache, it becomes dirty until the transaction commits and the state gets replicated to a database. And what you probably would like to do is to synchronize or to invalidate the caches. And some application servers do this out of the box. In some application servers or some persistence providers, you have to set it up. Usually this happens independently from the actual clustering. So in the next video training, I actually have about 40 episodes recorded of the next slot. Stay tuned. It should be released in the next, I would say, 2-3 weeks. And the topic is something about testing. So the next session is the next question. Oh, just look briefly at the chat. No questions here. No questions here. Okay. What might be the reason that SOAP request response contains duplicated namespaces? This seems appeared after application server upgrade, WebLogic 10 to 12. Actually, I don't know, because I didn't use SOAP for years, and what usually it could mean, of course, the XML stack was also upgraded. So what I would do is to look at the CSS and parsers or whatever WebLogic ships with, probably even the Metro stack, and see actually whether you will find something in the issues. What happened to me once, that the namespace was completely broken and it didn't work at all without any reasons. But what I found out then was the following. Let's see whether I will find it. SOAP debugging. There is some settings in the Metro which should also work. Yeah, this is a few years ago already. So, but there is a setting, ComSand XML WS transport HTTP client transport pipe dump true, and it will see the whole traffic on TCP IP traffic, which really helped me a lot. There's also an issue with namespaces, so I got null back. But yeah, I really don't know why it happens with WebLogic. So the next question is from Micaldo. whether I should continue the thread encapsulation violation with or without DTOs, data transfer objects. And why I prefer JSON in inter-application communication over strong types. Also a question, does it depend if the application has a single client or many clients? So why I prefer JSON is because you will have to provide JSON anyway. So usually what you are expected to do is to provide services for HTML5 clients, and if you have JavaScript, JSON is just great. So you can just access JSON and use it from directly using without any parsing. So basically it's a JavaScript object, very easy to consume for HTML5 clients. You can just loop over the keys. You can use path annotation and access the keys. So it's very easy to use. So therefore I just start with JSON. From the performance perspective, it's not that great because JSON of course is from Java perspective a hash map. So there are lots of instances. But there was no performance problems so far. So we were rather reasonable. So it's not like we try to serialize the whole database, send it to client. So our objects were not that big. So it worked good. And more interesting is why you prefer JSON in inter-application communication over strong types. This is an interesting one. And so what I probably said in the last airhacks is the following. If you have multiple clients, and you cannot control the clients, so you actually don't know when the clients are upgraded, or you cannot notify the client that you upgraded the service, and you would ship a type-safe interface, what it would actually mean is the type-safe each probably minor change of the type-safe interface will break most of the clients. And this is not acceptable. So what I think is better is to be not so strongly type for APIs. So all the clients will be able to still consume your API if you don't delete anything. You could even provide more services, more attributes, and they will still able to consume. So therefore, for robustness reasons, I would prefer loosely type APIs. From the developer perspective, strong types are always better because if something, if you change the API, you get probably compiler error, which is also a nice hint that something does not work. Usually what I see in enterprise apps is if the apps have strongly typed interface, like for instance SOAP, what happens inside the app, there's lots of mapping between entities, DTOs and another DTOs. And if you're doing this, you are not that strongly typed if you think about this, because if you change something, you have to think about all the mapping layers and if you forget an attribute, the client get null and compiler won't complain. So I would say strongly types only means if you change something in the database and also the API changes, then the client breaks. This is actually added value because you will very quickly recognize that the client does not work. And you can only do this if you can control the client. So if you ship the client and the server at once, it's perfect because each change of the server will break the client. You retest the client, recompile the client, everything is perfect. If you cannot control the clients and if you cannot control the lifecycle of the client, it's a really bad idea to break the clients. Okay. And the last question is what I think about JAX-RS API, proxy-based API. In principle, is interesting idea. So what it actually means, the client can use the same resources as the server, and behind the scenes, usually with dynamic proxies, the communication happens behind the scenes. We can actually open this. So there is exactly. So you can just say JAX-RS client factory, create, and you can then just invoke this on the client side. So basically, you can do this. What usually happens in projects, they tend to use or tend to go the remote procedure call route. What it actually means is the API degrades. So the quality is not that high and developers just attempt to invoke methods, which is okay if you can control the client. But if this is a general internet API, I think it is really bad idea to do this. Okay, next one. So the Wind Gaucho asked me, he is new to Java EE and he would like to implement the first, or she or he would like to implement the first Java EE app. And the question is which application server to use, Glassfish, Payara, Whitefly. And what is the difference to Tomcat? I get the question all the time. I will also answer it all the time because I get such questions a lot. So I wouldn't use Glassfish anymore. Why? Because there's no commercial support and the patch cycle for Glassfish is not that great. What are you? The question remains Payara. What is Payara? Payara is like patched Glassfish, which is free and open source, but you can also buy commercial support, which is also always interesting for larger customers. Not even for larger customers or even for mid-range customers. Whitefly, super interesting. And Tomcat has nothing to do with application servers. There's just a servlet container. Tommy would be the next one. Tom-EE. And the third one is WebSphere Liberty Profile. So I'm testing it right now, the newest edition. This is, wait a second, first Tommy. From Tommy Tribe, this is the company behind. Exactly, this is Apache Tommy. This is also a very valuable server. Actually, my blog is running on Tommy. So the blog engine is running on Tommy, and behind the scenes there are Payaras and Whitefly. So on my server, everything runs, right? And WebSphere Liberty Profile. This is the new kit on the block. So, and this is, they support Java 7. I think this is the, yeah, exactly, Java 7 web profile, which is 60 megs or about 100 MB for the full profile. And this server is, let's see, I would like to show you. It's extremely easy to use, so you can just download the full platform. It's about 100 megabyte. So you will ask about license, you say yes, you have the zip, you extract the zip, start the server, and you are set. So this is not like, the old WebSphere, which you have to wait, 2 hours until something happens. This one is very fast startup and also very fast deployment. So this is also something you could consider. This one is for free, but I think it is limited to just 2 GB of heap or RAM or something, which is usually more than enough for a small Java application. But this is not completely free, but you can also buy commercial support directly from IBM. This is completely free without any limitations, works great. You can buy support from Tommy Tribe, and the Payara is the patched Glassfish. So you can buy support from Payara folks, or you can just download everything from GitHub. So it's completely free. So as you probably know, a few years ago, I used almost exclusively Glassfish. After Oracle canceled the commercial support, what happened then? Most of my clients moved towards Whitefly, and some of the clients moved to Payara, but no one actually stayed with Glassfish. So now I have some clients using Payara and some clients using Whitefly, and everything works great. So in other projects, we just decided to use Tommy because there were migration projects from Tomcat to Tommy. So also a few of my clients are using Tommy, but so far I know there was no migration from Glassfish to Tommy now. So I hope the question is answered. So use Payara, Whitefly or Tommy. What I will tend to start with, I would actually start with Payara, and the only reason is because the Payara or Glassfish is the reference implementation for Java EE. So, and if you will read the Java 7 tutorials and the examples, they're usually created with Glassfish, which is absolutely compatible with Payara. And if you do the application right, you should be able to switch between application servers at any time. There should be actually no problem at all. This is even what I did during the workshop, the Java EE, effective Java EE workshop. So the Whitefly data problem was injection of classes into entity listeners in JPA. So what I did during the workshop, I just stopped Whitefly and started Payara, and I got, if you look at the comments, they said, hey, how it's possible that the example worked with Whitefly and they didn't recognize that it's restarted the application using Payara. So it should be completely transparent. Okay, so I hope now you are the expert how to choose the application servers. So, and Tomcat, I would say, in my opinion, don't use Tomcat because Tomcat only comes with a servlet container. So you will have to, set up everything by yourself, which might be fun for training purposes, but, you should be lazy. So why to do this? So the next question is, And for a beginner, is a very skilled one, because ask already boundary or control. Could you explain a little bit more how to separate the boundary of the control tier, I suppose? I will have to. Yes, what John Klingon says, Tommy and Liberty have passed the CTS2. Yeah, Tommy and Liberty are Java 7 also, and Whitefire as well. Yeah. So, boundary and control. So they are not tiers, they are actually packages. So how it looks like is the following. So you have one package is the boundary. And if you are a beginner, just start with the boundary. And anything else doesn't matter. And you put their class and you implement the logic. And if you consider the class from object-oriented point of view, and at one point of time, the class will have too many responsibilities. So there is one pattern or advice is called single responsibility. The class has to have only one responsibility, the main one. And if there's too many responsibilities, you will have to split the class into multiple classes. And what can happen, you can get additional boundaries. What can also happen is that you get controls, and the boundary controls the controls, right? Or manages the controls. It will act as a facade. So the direct answer to your question is, don't worry about the controls. Start with a component, and the name of the component should be nice. So like, let's say order. This is ordering system. Then the boundary would be like order processor, and the control would be shipment and payment, for instance. So in order to order something, you will have to ship and pay. And at the beginning, everything could be in the boundary, but then you can move the stuff to controls and make the boundary thinner. So this is actually how to deal with boundaries and controls. I get the question a lot. I hope now it's crystal clear. You shouldn't start with controls, just start with a simple class, deploy it, write system test, test it. If it gets too big, extract the logic, put it to controls, and you should be set. So this is actually the main idea here. So I hope it's crystal clear right now. And actually, if you look at the Headlands project, this might be interesting. So Headlands. So this is a relatively fresh project. This is like JCache with exposed as REST. And if you go, I will refactor it soon. What I did exactly the same. There is, I think, cache boundary, and there is cache discoverer. I hope this is the class. Yeah. And this class is way too big. So the cache discoverer. So what I'm going to do is I plan to extract some methods and put them into control, because this cache discoverer is no more just discoverer. If you look at the method, is able to get configuration and create cache and dump something to and get. So if you look at this, there are only few methods which has something to do with discovery. And I started just with the boundary, and then I will move stuff out to controls and make the class thinner. So this will happen in a few weeks, a few days, or a few weeks, if I will have some spare time. So it still works, but this is how it should start, and this is actually in the boundary package. So you can look at the projects in a few days or weeks. You will see even thinner, either a thinner cache discovery, or even I will rename it to something else, and cache discovery could become a control. So this is controls are created because of refactoring. This is actually how you get your controls. At the beginning, there are no controls. I hope it's crystal clear. If not, re-ask the question, and next month there is going to be the next airhacks. So questions here. Oh, perfect. Understood BCE. So perfect. So there's another question in the chat. I will try to answer this in a second. So the Mr. or Mr. Schnitzler asked me that I have a Maven release plugin in my repositories, and Maven concept of snapshot versioning somewhat conflicts with the idea of continuous delivery, where every build is a potential release. So, and the question is, what are my thoughts on release versioning with Maven? So, and you have to distinguish. You probably only saw the libraries which are pushed to Maven Central. So there's probably something like Afterburner, which is JavaFX library, or Airfield, which is installation client, and or Loader, which is like a RESTful deployer with a HTTP hook to a Glassfish or Payara. And what I usually do there, I'm developing locally in my pipeline, and if the build is good enough, it gets promoted. And if the build is promoted, the Maven release plugin runs, and its new version in the Maven plugin, as well as new version, the same tag in GitHub. So this is what Maven release plugins does. In a war project, it is less important in my eyes, because the war is usually not checked in to Maven Central. At least it's not reusable as is. So it gets pushed to GitHub. But it would be the same. You are working with snapshots until the build is promoted. Promoted means all tests are passed, and you can decide whether the promotion is automatic, or you have to push the button and say, now I would like to have, the new version, and it will just increase the versions in the POM, tag the Git repo, and you could even push, if you say Maven deploy, push the artifacts to the central repository. In commercial projects, we do it in one project. So we have the promotion means we increase the version of Maven. In the remaining projects, we're working with the snapshots. But still, it really doesn't matter, because what I believe is in small, not modules, artifacts. So what do you usually have in 80% of my projects? We have a single war without any dependency. So if you don't have any dependencies, it really does not matter whether you are working with snapshot or not, because it's not like you have to, one team creates a jar and the other team includes the jar. If you have communication between teams, we use wars. They talk to each other. And the version of the war really does not matter. They communicate via JAX-RS with projects like Porcupine. So look at the Porcupine example, and we just did it for years, and now we can sell the same architecture as microservices. So I hope it is clear. So the answer is, if this is a Java EE app, what you usually have, one thin war running on one application server. If the war has to communicate with another war, the version does not matter. So whether you are versioning using versioning in Maven or not, it doesn't matter, because the war is not pushed to a central repository either usually. So what you saw in my GitHub repository are projects like, I think, Airfield, for instance, Airfield or Breaker. This is the newer one. Was announced today, so it's also new. And what the breaker is, this is a minimalistic implementation of circuit breaker pattern. Minimalistic means one class, of course. This is the circuit breaker pattern. And the GitHub repository is here. And this comes with Maven release plugin. So if I go here and here, there should be Maven release with the current, with SCM connection and Maven release plugin. Because if on the next release, I'll just say Maven release, and it will just increases the version and syncs the GitHub repo with me. So, but this is what you usually don't do in commercial project. This is what I do in my leisure. If I cannot sleep, I hack on a new project. Okay. I hope it's clear right now. So questions here. Is there a web speech API for Java? Yeah, of course. And I think the name is FreeTTS. So this question answered. This is really great. I used that to once I implemented a Java util logging appender, and it was just fun. And the application started to read the logs. But yeah, it works. It works really well. So I would just put it to chat. So there is one. So now the next question from the chat. I have not used PrimeFaces before, but I can see that it's very productive. True. But what if I want to use another web design with JSF? Can I go to Bootstrap, jQuery plugins? does JSF play well with this last root? It's convenient that PrimeFaces won. So PrimeFaces is extremely productive if you can live with the design. This is true. What you can do, you can just use CSS and change whatever you like. So if you start with manipulating the DOM, you can of course do it because the DOM is like a DOM, so it will always work. The problem is the DOM is usually synchronized with the server using the components. So what you should do is you should understand the life cycle of the components. So if you start to modify the components in browser, they can become out of sync with the server. So this is what I would not suggest. And why PrimeFaces is so productive? PrimeFaces is productive because what you usually should do, you should look at the demo showcase of PrimeFaces, just use whatever you like and stop at this point. What you shouldn't do even attempt to extend the components. If you think the components are not enough, what I would do, I wouldn't use JSF. And if you go to there are some interviews on my blog about startups. There are, I think, 3 startups. One is the Tippy Camp, and this is what I can remember. The other one was a company in Poland. And this Tippy Camp, this is PrimeFaces, and the creator is very, very happy about the productivity because he just likes the components. So he would never attempt, to extend the components because it's just too much work. So you are very productive if you can live with the components. It's like in the Microsoft ecosystem. If you would buy some components for Windows, you should just use them. I think you shouldn't think about extending them, and because then you are basically forking the framework. So the answer is CSS, no problem. With JavaScript, be careful what you are doing because you are changing the state of the components, and this can be dangerous. Okay. Oh, Tony Stees asked me, is there a web speech API for Java? I don't know what the web means. This speak libraries, free TTS, text to speech. I think this is a Java API, but this is not a web API. So if you would use JavaFX and embed it somewhere in a browser, it will also speak, but yeah. Okay, so now we cover this. Breaker. So would you create a new release version number for every sprint that is getting tested by the QA team? Yes, usually yes. I mean, again, in war, it does not matter. In jars, yes. This is a good one. What means approval QA team? So this is actually, I should read the next question as well. If we get promoted build, what means promoted? So what you usually get, you get a Jenkins pipeline. So, and the first tests are executed fully automatic. So everything is automated. So if you have QA team, probably what you could do, you could create another pipeline just for the QA team, and they push the button promote, and then you can increase the version. So what it means, if the pipeline is not fully automated and you have QA team, then I would increase the version if the QA team pushes the button. So I tried to research this a bit. I got a question. In JavaFX, I need to change keyboard layout from English language to Arabic language when user focus on text field. I don't think it's possible. I mean, on a Mac, there is even there was a operating system where you can change the languages. What you can do, you can change the locale. This will work. So this is just you can hook up the event listener and say, okay, on focus and default locale, and you can change the locale completely for the whole app. This is trivial. So look at locale, default locale on event. I think is on focus or focus gain or something in JavaFX. So this is trivial. But what you cannot do, you cannot change the system language. Okay, something happening in the chat. So the question is, what is my opinion on Apache Wicket? So I was a huge proponent of Apache Wicket before JSF 2. With JSF 2, I see some similarity. And in my eyes, JSF is more popular than Apache Wicket. So I would say before I would use another framework, I would look more closely on MVC, the new one in Java 8, or VRaptor. So we had it already. This is one which you could use, VRaptor. But I personally would be a little bit more careful with Wicket because it is not standardized, which doesn't mean anything. But if something is not standardized, there are less books, articles, and speakers basically available to answer your questions. And I think the Apache Wicket is less popular than JSF. And what I would look more closely is on MVC, is like the Java 8 framework, because there are already two implementations, and one is a VRaptor is older than the specification actually. And of course, Spring MVC is also similar to the MVC pattern. Okay. Okay, and in general, you should the new Java, is this production ready? No. I think it works well enough, but not for production. I mean, it's a reference implementation. Just look at VRaptor, what I shot in. This is production ready. This MVC, not yet. But if you test and it works well, or let's say this MVC framework is a reference implementation based on Jersey MVC, and Jersey is used in production, and the MVC part is less tested. So in principle, you could use it in production if you test it well. Okay. So in general, I would say the following to the server-side rendering frameworks. They are less flexible than the HTML5 frameworks in the browser. And what you usually have to do is you will have to expose the REST API anyway. So what you will end up having is like a remote part, which is REST to the HTML5 clients and iOS clients and Android, and one internal API just for the Apache Wicket or JSF. So this is also an issue. So be a little bit more careful with server-side frameworks. Having that said, we often use server-side framework to be better scored by Google SEO. So if you render something on the server, it is easier traversable by the robots, and you will appear higher in the results from Google. So this is also an interesting component of this. Okay, nice. So how to implement session ID mechanism between a web application and a JAX-RS service. The two apps run in separate containers, and the REST service provides somehow a login. So what you're asking me, I think, is not the session management. What you need is not a web session. You need an application session. And I would say what you actually need is a single sign-on, something like OAuth. And what I would suggest to you, there are different solutions from ForgeRock. And the name is the Open, I think AM. Yes, this is an old Sun solution. Yeah, old. It's now open source, but it was very popular. It was I actually forgot the name back then, but it is used a lot. So what it actually is you can install this on a server. It's like a repository, and all the application servers use agents to communicate with this. So you get your session ID, your token, and you get single sign-on for all apps. You can even sign in with Whitefly and then proceed with JavaFX if you like. And another solution is Keycloak from Keycloak. Exactly. It's also a very nice solution from Red Hat. It's a similar solution with really nice. It's easy to install on Whitefly. We use it also in production, and what you get is single sign-in, and even password management and user management and group management, and So if you have to implement a single sign-on, use this. If you would like to have stateful JAX-RS, there's actually nothing to do, because JAX-RS is based on servlets, so you can just start a web session. It will just work. So I hope this question is answered and clear. So Tony asked me, do you recommend using the wizard to create entities from database? I think what Tony means is a NetBeans wizard. Yes, I always use the wizard the first time. If the database exists, I always use a wizard to generate the entities from a database because it works in principle. Then I write integration tests to test whether it works. And then if I'm happy with the result, I beautify the entities. So this is the right approach. Never write, entities to an existing database and hope they will match. Is really hard work. Having that said, of course, if you have inheritance in a tables, the wizard cannot recognize this. So what you usually will get is one-to-one relations for inheritance. So you will have to refactor the entities a bit, but they will generally work. So you will be able to read and write data from the database with the generated entities. Okay. Perfect. So I was playing around with JCache and Hazelcast and Payara. Works fine with Java SE classes, but not so nice with custom classes. This is very true. And why not? Because if you serialize something to Hazelcast, the Hazelcast nodes have to have your class. So this is nothing special on Hazelcast. If you would use RMI or Corba or whatever remote procedure call mechanism, it is like it is. So, and this is a pain in A star, whatever it means. I'm just curious what means A double star. It's probably a new framework. Since it's not possible to work with entry processor, entry listeners to either JCache and display structures as AMAP. Do you have a better solution than to kickstart Hazelcast from the top to make it work in Java environment? Of course. And the solution, what I showed you, is Headlands. And what Headlands has, they are processors. And the processor, there's a cache processor. So, and the interesting part, all the listeners and all the processors can be implemented with JSF. So with Headlands, what you get is traveling code as a string. So I'm able to push JavaScript. Wait a second. Do I have NetBeans somewhere? No. So I will open Headlands. So I can implement the so, and let's search for Headlands. Here is it. So this is the application from GitHub. So it's completely open source. This is the Headlands app. And if you go to processors, they are cache processor and entry processor. And there's one engine. This is JSF. And what it does, it just materializes Java interfaces from a script. So I'm pushing a script to the grid. It replicates it in the full grid. It always works because the script is just a string, so serialization not a problem. And then JSF reads the script, converts it to a Java interface, and makes it so type safe, so it can be used as an entry processor, whatever you like. This is actually the code you need. And the performance is great because JSF is translated to compiled code. So at one point of time, it should be as fast as Java. And if you look at a test, there should be a system test. Here. Processors, let's see. So load script processor.js. So I have here somewhere a script. It is processor.js. Here, process works. So this is actually the traveling code. So, and I'm pushing this to the grid here. Create processor with the script. And this I'm using REST. So I'm sending the script and the keys, and it is just on the Hazelcast side, it is materialized. So actually, Headlands is the solution to your question. And I'm using it on my server for the computation of the statistic of my blog. So if you go here and look at my blog, everything on the right side, all the statistics are computed with Hazelcast and all the scripts. So if you hit a page, there are multiple Headlands scripts running in the background. So I hope there would be a less painful in our double star than with traveling classes. You could also serialize lambdas this would work, but you have still problem with migration and upgrading, and with string it just works. And by the way, this Hazelcast, how I implemented these headlands is independent of Hazelcast. It just uses the JCache API and exposes JCache API via REST. So the next one, we are building a Java application which makes moderately to heavy use of DB resources. And there are 250 concurrent users in an 8-core 60 gigabyte of RAM server, which is a lot. So 60 gigabyte of RAM and 8-core machine is a huge machine. No JVM tuning, no batch processing with JPA. And the question is in your project, how many users do you support in a server with similar characteristics? So it is really hard to say, but 250 is not a lot. So it should be more than this. So I mean, an empty database on the server on one machine on my laptop, I did it several times, you should be able to achieve 2,000 transactions per second. So and if your database is slower, then it's less than this. To find this out, what you should do, perform a stress tests and watch the application server. What is the CPU utilization of the Java process? If the server is 90% or 100% of CPU, then it means your application does not scale. But if the application server, the CPU utilization is by 30 or 40% and it still does not scale, it means the server is waiting for I/O from the database and you have probably locking issues. And I would say usually the problem is the database, not the server. So on average, boring Java applications, so the numbers usually are a lot better than expected. So there are actually huge applications with a viewer cluster nodes. Actually, I think one thing I can share, because I interviewed them. So there's an interview, mission critical low latency Java E. This is one of my clients, and they used also Glassfish with far smaller machines. And as you can see, they have 1,500 clients, 25,000 transactions per second, and 1,100 milliseconds is the return time. And what I can say, there's also heavy use of database, actually extreme high, but this is a product. And I was involved in the project, so this is the numbers I can share with you, because no NDA, they committed to perform an interview on my blog. So I will just put it to the chat. Okay. So then Nebras asks, what is the best API to implement server-send events? REST, AJAX, or WebSockets? Actually, you ask 3 questions, because server-send events is one, REST long polling is another one, and WebSocket is the third one. The basic answer, WebSocket is the best if you can do this. So if you have no problem with proxies and whatever, WebSocket is just the best way, because you can just, this is bidirectional direct communication between the server and the browser. There are no hacks involved. You should use WebSockets if you can. Long polling is a workaround, and SSE is like open HTTP connection, and you are streaming with over a protocol, which is, I think is this semicolon separated stream of stuff. And as far as I know, it is not supported by your browser. So what you should use is WebSockets first, then long polling, because WebSockets comes with Java 7, REST and AJAX comes with Java 6 already, and SSE is probably going to be available in Java 8 and in the newest Jersey and JAX-RS. So almost done. So what we should do is to answer the last 2 questions or 3 questions, and the questions are from the JavaOne airhacks. Both, I got so many online questions, or from the attendees, so I couldn't answer this one. My view on OOP and trending functional languages. So what does functional mean for me, and what's trending? So first, for me, functional languages, how I see functional languages is like the methods are objects. So this is how I understand this a little bit. So you can even use methods as is called first-class citizens. So you can refer to methods, store a method in a variable. You can treat a method as an object. So it's a little bit nicer than object-oriented language in that sense. Java became more or less functional, Java 8, and this is great if you have to work with data, streams, and maps. What I also like is in a browser using the functional features from JavaScript. But what's funny, the ES6, the newest JavaScript, will come with inheritance and object-oriented stuff, which really puzzled me because I don't see the point, to using in a browser object. So this is functions. What you usually would like to do is, to attach functions to as listener to buttons, and objects are a little bit more heavy. I would say is not that needed. So I would say my general view on languages is the following. So I'm working with Java since 1995, and I really still like it. So and Java is a huge ecosystem, so it's not boring to me. And I don't think if I would choose a different language, I would be substantially more productive than with Java. And so far, Java is good enough. I would just choose Java because it's programming language number one. And there's the highest independence from customer to me and to other consultants is also actually good. If I would sell, an esoteric language to my customer, I would get, it will be completely dependent on me, which is good and bad at the same time. So yeah. So I would say Java 8 is functional. NASWON comes also with Java, which is also functional. And I like functional programming, especially in browser. And on this, if you look on my Java E projects, there's almost no objects, right? So there is no inheritance in boundaries, no inheritance in control. And where I get inheritance in more complex algorithm is inheritance in JPA. So the question number 12, database access in a SaaS environment. One database per user. Best way to add dynamically database connections for new users. I don't think it means connections. It's more data sources. And adding data sources on the fly is not possible, or not possible with the standard. What is easy is, what you can do, or what we already did is, we prepared several data sources per tenant, or multiple entity managers per tenant. And what you can do, we injected them on the startup, and then on the fly, you can freely choose which one to use. Depending on customer, on a token or whatever, we just selected the right entity manager, injected that, and used that. So this worked actually perfectly. And what you could also do, it has to be, the problem is you have complete different databases. You will have to install JDB, probably also the database drivers on the fly, which I would never do on application server. If you have one database and it would change different schemas, it's doable. And you have one vendor and create entity managers on the fly, should be also possible. But what you probably mean is different schemas or different entity managers, what we actually did. So you can, on the fly, change entity managers or even inject, or what you can easily implement is you can produce entity managers with a qualifier, string, for instance, and depending on string, like a country or area, you can choose the right entity manager. This is what you can easily do. So another question is mixing PrimeFaces with various JavaScript frameworks, and this is the question from the workshop, from the effective Java E workshop. And I already answered the question is the following answer: you should be cautious with JavaScript framework, which introduce new DOM elements, because the data binding between the browser and the server gets lost. So the server-side component tree can get out of sync. Using CSS is not a huge problem. So you can skin PrimeFaces with Bootstrap or whatever you like. So this should work out of the box. So I will just change to the chat and see whether there are any questions. No question in the so what I forgot to mention, the WebLogic server is also Java 7 certified finally. So all major application servers are Java 7 certified. Okay. So sure, but if I, for example, want to use the distributed query on custom classes in Hazelcast IMAP, I would need to put my custom classes. Yeah, or you could implement an interface by NASWOne, and it can travel this is what I meant, how it works in my case. If you just have Hazelcast, I mean, if you only have Hazelcast, then you can do anything, of course, because Hazelcast just understands your queries. What you could do, you can serialize lambdas. This also works. And what Nason comes with serializer and deserializer. You can register them, but you will still have to have classes, of course. So Anonymous asked me, when you have two wars communicated via JAX-RS, do you use a jar file which contains the Pojo classes on the for Jersey client and Jersey? No. If you have two wars which communicate via JAX-RS, they are completely independent from each other. What it actually means, some code is redundant. So we have in two wars redundant code, but then they are completely independent from each other. There are no shared classes, and this is the price of microservices. Perfect. So we are set 1 hour with JavaOne special. I would say see you next month. I think this was the last one in 2015, so short year. And what I will do soon, I will publish the live session from JavaOne. I recorded it with a GoPro camera on my iPhone. Let's see whether the quality is good enough. If it is, I will publish it in the next 2 weeks. And so long, be happy and delete code, and see you in an airhacks in Munich in December. Actually, is the next one. And what's crazy, we get potentially in December attendees from Costa Rica, Saudi Arabia, Kathmandu, USA, various European countries. So it's like a worldwide event. So it's like workshop 1, right? At airhacks Munich in December. And yeah, I won't attend any conference anymore this year. There's lots to do, lot to work, and yeah, delete code and be happy. Okay, thank you and bye.